Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host, Zara Pedersen, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about taqwa. And we're going to do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, and perhaps the most important, is that we're nearing Ramadan. And this is the month, of course, where a lot of us see an increase in our personal taqwa. And that is normal because everybody around us is fasting. Well, not everybody around us, but your fellow Muslims are fasting. People are taking their prayers more seriously. People are donating more into charity, whatever it might be. And so it's easier to have taqwa. It's easier to lean on our taqwa and to strengthen our taqwa and feel that strength of it. But also because lately, if you've kind of been around for a while, you may have noticed that I speak a lot more about, our personal relationships with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is for a reason. Number one, Number one is that I've now been doing Manifesting Muslimah for just over a year. Alhamdulillah. I'm very, very happy for that. So thank you to you, because without an audience, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So really, jazakallah khair. I am super appreciative of you. And in that year, I've actually noticed that in order for me to be able to teach law of attraction from an Islamic perspective effectively, I also have to teach or create awareness around personal relationships with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One cannot exist without the other. In fact, nothing as a Muslim can exist in a beneficial way without our personal relationships with Allah. And taqwa is one of those things that comes in and plays a very, very big role when we start creating relationships with Allah. That is also when we can strengthen our taqwa. Okay, so before I continue on, because I've been saying the word a lot at this point, let's just kind of talk a little bit about what taqwa is and what it isn't. Because it's important for us to understand, again, that we're on the same page here. And so we're all following in the same conversation. And also, I'm so sorry, again, I forgot to say this to begin with, but I actually broke my camera on my phone, my back camera. So I'm filming on the front camera. So if you're watching the video and the quality seems a little bit off, I hope it doesn't. But in case it does, that is why. I tried gluing the camera, it's the little lens that sort of holds the camera in, the little mirror thing on the back of your phone. And I kind of dropped my phone, and then that thing went flinging across the room. And I found it again and I cleaned it, and then I kind of super glued it back onto the phone. But some of the super glue kind of ended up going on that little piece of glass. So now it looks foggy when I'm trying to record or take a picture with my back camera. It's just annoying, but alhamdulillah, it is what it is, because I still have a front camera, right? So I'm using that. But in case you're watching the video and you're like, what happened with the quality of the video? That's what happened, essentially. Okay, so for those of you who are listening to the audio shouldn't be impacted at all. So alhamdulillah for that. Okay, so let's get back on track again. What is taqwa? Taqwa is God consciousness, being conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And taqwa is something that we should have or embody every single day, every moment of every day. Having taqwa is having the awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and making sure that the decisions that we're making on a daily basis follow that awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? It will literally reflect, your taqwa will reflect in your actions. So if you have taqwa, you will, I'm not going to say automatically, but there's probably another word for it, but it's not automatically, but I'm going to use that word because I can't think of the other word that I actually want to use. But if you have taqwa, you will automatically start becoming a better person because you are aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're aware that you cannot hide your actions from Allah, that Allah is all seeing, all hearing, all knowing. He is aware of you, and the more you are aware of Him, inshallah, your actions are going to sort of follow suit, right? So it's the consciousness of, oh, wait a minute, Allah is not just watching me only when I pray my salah, or only when I'm fasting, or only when I call on him and make my dua and whatever. It is every single minute of every single day. There is this awareness and consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And ultimately, when we have that consciousness, we become conscious of the temporarity. Is that a word? I don't know. The temporariness, the temporariness. We become aware of the fact, excuse me, my darling, my brain is clearly having moments today. We become aware of how temporary this dunya is. Why do I have to make things more complicated than they have to be? If you know what word I was looking for there, if that word even exists, please send it to me, because I know I'm going to sit with that for a minute and be like, oh my God, that is so weird. What is the word? Because I feel like there is a word that is there, but I just lost it. So when you have taqwa, you become aware of the fact that this dunya is temporary, and that there is the real life after this dunya, right? And that we will inshallah be rewarded with the best of the best. We will inshallah be rewarded with Jannah, because we have taqwa, because the taqwa will help us become better people in our everyday actions, not just, as I said, within our prayers, our du'as, those direct actions in religion, but also as who we are as people, how we conduct ourselves, how we carry ourselves, how we react to things, what we don't do, what we do. Okay. Now, one of the things, excuse me if you're why do you keep looking down? I've got my notes, because I'm trying to be more precise when I'm speaking to you guys, because I do go off on tangents quite a lot, and I'm doing it right now. So what taqwa isn't, but is often being confused as such, is the fear of Allah. But it is not fear of Allah. If we wanted fear of Allah, we would use the word for fear. We would say fear, we would say khawf. We would say, to fear Allah, but we're not saying that. We're saying taqwa, consciousness. And being conscious of Allah and fearing Allah are two very separate things. And we shouldn't confuse one with the other here. But it's very normal for people to kind of mush that in there and be like, fear Allah, fear Allah, fear Allah. And kind of pushing this fear-mongering on religion and Islam specifically. This is not news to anyone. We've all fallen victim to that. And for a lot of us, it's made us very angry towards Allah, resenting Allah, fearing Allah in a way where we want to give up rather than pursuing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we feel like we can't win no matter what we do. And so this is very dangerous thinking. We don't want to do that, because why? Fear is not an emotion that drives us to move towards the thing we fear. In fact, fear is an emotion that pushes us away from that thing. If you have a fear of spiders, you're not going to go over and touch the spider, right? You're going to go into the other room. You're going to burn the house down first and foremost, because the spider is in there. And then you're going to pack a bag and move, right? That is what fear does. Fear drives you away. It moves you away from the thing, right? So fear is actually a really horrible thing that a lot of people use to make people conform. But it's not a very good emotion to make people actually do things because they want to, because they believe in it, because they love it. And in this case, it is very important for us to understand that taqwa is not fear. It's not that you do the things throughout your day because you have a fear of Allah. You can be God-fearing, which is a very different thing than fearing God. Maybe we should have an episode on that. Maybe inshallah, if I forget, please, my darling, remind me of it. You know what? I'm going to just right now, God fearing versus fearing God. We're going to have an episode on that inshallah as well, because I do think it's very important for us to understand the difference between those two terms, because they're not the same. That is very important. We're not going to get into that right now, because this is about taqwa. We're not going to talk about the fear and stuff. But it's important for us to make sure that we understand that taqwa can include God-fearingness. We understand and acknowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who will punish us if we are displeasing to him, if we do things of the kafirs, if we are following other people and we commit shirk and we don't pray and whatever and whatever and whatever, right? But taqwa and God-fearing is like that awareness, but it's not driven by fear. It is an awareness, a consciousness that is who Allah is, but I'm doing it to become a better person because I love Allah. And I understand that everything I do in this dunya is for Allah. So that is the difference, right? Again, remember, fear pushes you away, makes you run away from the thing, whereas love and awareness and consciousness makes you want to approach it, right? If you don't have a fear of spiders, you actually like spiders and you see a spider, you're going to want to move closer to the spider. You're going to be like, oh my God, what kind of spider are you? Oh my God, you got fuzzy little legs. Ooh, sorry, I gave myself the heebie-jeebies. You got fuzzy little legs. Let me tickle your little fuzzy legs, like whatever it might be, right? That is what like love or appreciation or whatever it might be does to you. It makes you like move closer to it, or if anything, maybe not even move closer to it, but it makes you not run away from it. You're just like, oh, there's a spider over there. Okay, I'm not in love with you because I don't know you that well, but I also don't fear you, so I will stay and see what you do. Like, let me just create that awareness. You're over there. I'm not going to walk over there right now, but I'm also not going to kill you. I'm not going to like panic and run away. I'm just going to like figure you out. What can you do for me? Right? Can you eat the flies, the other bugs in my house, whatever, right? So, so what does taqwa do for us in our everyday life? Taqwa is, when we have taqwa, it can help us, like, I'm going to give you some specific examples. I've written a couple about here. So if you have taqwa, it can stop you from lashing out at other people. So you're in a situation with someone and they're being unfair, they're being unreasonable, whatever. And you're feeling your emotions rising. You're actually getting quite angry, right? Or you're getting very frustrated with that person, whatever. When you have taqwa, you understand that wrath is not an emotion that Allah is pleased by. He doesn't like it when we allow our emotions to get the better of us and kind of move us away from adab, to have adab, to have etiquette, to have that sort of like, there's another word there that I keep losing the words today. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. But yeah, so that we don't lose our adab, our etiquette, our good manners. There we go. So having that can stop us from potentially lashing out at this other person and just kind of like keeping our cool and being like, you know what, I don't like, even though you're annoying me right now and you're probably in need of a good lashing out at some point, I'm not the person who's going to give it to you. I'm not the person who's going to fall into that trap. Instead, I'm going to sort of like take another deep breath, be patient, move away from this situation, even though that's hard. That could be done by having taqwa, because you are aware that Allah is still watching you in that situation, even if you're not consciously calling for Allah to watch you in that situation. Do you know what I mean? So Allah is still watching, and you're aware that Allah is still watching, and He may be judging you on that interaction, or it's not may, but He is judging you based on that interaction. Okay. Another thing is, and I actually caught myself doing this on Umrah. On Umrah, while I was away doing my Umrah, stopping ourselves from slandering, talking bad about other people. I know, I can't believe I'm actually admitting to this, but I'm admitting to it because we're all going to fall into these traps, right? Like, I'm not sitting here trying to polish a halo that's not over my head, right? There is none. So I'll give you the example. I was sitting in the evening and I was in the hotel room with my mum and I was scrolling on TikTok, and there was this video of a hijabi girl and she was on Umrah, and there was just something about the video. Like, I'm not even going to go into detail, but there was something about the video that I was just like, ugh, like ick. And I was this close to sharing it with mom to be like, oh my God, mom, look at this. So we could have a little laugh and like kind of maybe talk a little bit shit about her. I'm so sorry. It feels so awful to say, but I know that it's awful. So I'm not sitting here trying to make it okay. I'm saying it because I know I was about to make a big mistake. And I already did, because I totally judged this girl, right? And again, she was on her probably a Umrah as well, and she just made a video and I was like, I'm not perfect. I am 100% also a bitch probably, and a horrible one at that, but I'm trying to be better, and inshallah so are you. But in that moment when I was just about to share it with my mum so we could have a little kiki about it and make ourselves feel better, I think that's the thing, isn't it? With all of this, like, especially when it comes to slandering and like backbiting and talking bad about other people, it's because we want to make ourselves feel better, right? I had that God consciousness. It's very easy when you're on Umrah, because there's that taqwa really is elevated in those moments, right? Or in those days. And I was like, wait a minute, Allah is watching. And what is he going to think about that? That I'm sitting there and I'm, going to laugh at one of his other servants, and I don't know who she is and what she's gone through and what she's thinking and whatever. But, because of a specific feeling within me and a rash judgment from me, I feel like I have the right to sit down and laugh and then share it with my mum, so she also can be in on that. Like, so I'm going to drag my mum down with me. So I didn't. Pat myself on the back, because it was hard. I do love a good kiki with my mum. I know this sounds so bad, but especially when we're making fun of other people, I'm sorry if that is offensive to you, but it's the truth. It is the truth. I can't help it. My mum is Moroccan and she can read a person to filth. It is a natural genetical talent when you're Moroccan, and it is hilarious. It is hilarious. It is so fun. Astaghfirullah. Honestly, astaghfirullah. I love my mum. And I love that ability with Moroccans. All Moroccans can do this. So it makes it so much fun to have those moments with my mum. But of course, even when it's lighthearted, there is definitely like something in there where it's like, what am I doing here? Like, be careful, because I'm judging somebody who is on their own journey and whatever. And even if we're doing it in private, Allah is still watching. So yeah, that's an example of taqwa. I'm not perfect. I have lots of times throughout my day where I'll have to bite my tongue, where I have to stop myself from doing something like sharing, like slandering, like, I don't know, whatever it might be. It could be anything. I also wrote down like cheating, and with cheating, I'm not talking about like spousal cheating. Of course, that is also one. But cheating other people, like maybe you went to the grocery store and the cashier accidentally gave you £10 more in change than they were supposed to. Allah still sees that, while in this economy it is so tempting to keep that £10 and not say anything. Allah is still watching, right? So you have to be fair. It's taqwa is ultimately the way that I see it and understand it and see how it applies in my life and how it applies to other people's lives, is it actually just makes you a better person. Not because it's easy to be that bigger person, but because you're doing it for the sake of Allah, which in and of itself, of course, is so pleasing to Allah. Because walking away from something like an argument where you feel you are so entitled to that anger and frustration, and the other person is clearly being a knobhead, and you're like, oh, I really want to, like, this person, I need to teach this person a lesson, and I have every right to have a go at them and like just shout in their face and really make them feel like this big, like tiny, to gather yourself in that moment and have taqwa and walk away because you have that consciousness of Allah. Allah loves that. And there's so much reward in that, because Allah knows it's hard. Allah created us with our emotions, and he knows that anger is such a difficult emotion to control, to manage. And I was going to try and make a little joke there about why he gave why men are more angry, and, we can see how that kind of plays out, but I'm not going to go there. But if you got it, you got it from that little snippet. If you got it, you got it, right? Okay, so, so it can make us better people because we have the taqwa. But what it can also do is create better habits for us around the things that we know we should be doing as Muslims, like praying, right? For me personally, having taqwa means that the days when I'm like lazy, I'm just going to say what it is, like it's lazy, and I'm procrastinating on my prayers, and especially when I'm like scrolling on TikTok, I'm not even doing anything, serious. I'm not doing anything important. When was it? This morning, unfortunately, I didn't hear my alarm go off for Fajr. My alarm is just the adhan for Fajr. And I didn't hear it this morning. So I slept through. And then I woke up around 9 and I just felt tired, and I was like, a little bit defeated because oh no, I didn't wake up for Fajr in time, and like now it's 9. And then I picked up my phone to see, like, oh, did the alarm go off? And it did. And then I was like, oh, let me just see what's going on TikTok. And then, I checked the likes, the comments, all of that stuff, as you do. And then I went over to the thing page, and I started scrolling. And again, nothing serious. I wasn't like falling back asleep or anything. I was just not doing anything serious. And then the taqwa, that God consciousness came in, like, oh, God is looking at you right now, and he knows that you missed Fajr. Even if it was by mistake, Allah still knows that, right? But Allah's seeing that you're not rushing to make up for it. You're not like, oh, I missed it. I must, I better go do it now quickly, right? So I can not get it done, but you know what I mean? Like, because I missed the Fajr, so I'm actually already late with my prayer. And instead he's seeing you scrolling on TikTok, right? And it's not the fear of Allah here that's playing. It's the, oh, I wonder what God is like thinking, looking at me now. Like, I'm actually displeasing Allah right now with my actions. And it has nothing to do with fear and punishment. It has everything to do with, do I want to be a person who displeases Allah? Do I want to be the person who makes Allah, like, if he had a nose, I don't know if he has a nose, Allahu a'lam, but that like he will scrunch his nose and be like, like looking at me like just not happy, just not proud, just not pleased with me as his servant. And that, that is a motivation for me to be like, let me just put my phone away, go make my wudu, and then pray my prayer, and then move on with the rest of my day. And then if I want to scroll, I have so much time between my prayers to sit down and scroll. But that has been such a huge motivation for me to keep praying, to keep my prayers on time, or as close to on time as I can get. Taqwa. Not fear of Allah, not fear of his punishment, not always because every day I'm just like rushing to my prayer mat, super motivated. Some days are like that, alhamdulillah, and those days are amazing. But then there are other days where, we're dragging our feet. And the reason why I'll still come to prayer is because of my taqwa. It's because of that consciousness of Allah. It is literally the motivation is to drive, right? And also not to skip prayers. When was it? On Saturday, at the veterinary clinic where I work part-time, we ended up having a very busy day, and we didn't expect it to happen. I was only supposed to work like in the morning, but I came back after lunch, and lunch here is like in the afternoon, like 2 to 4, because we had a couple of surgeries. And so I help out in the surgeries, and I assist the surgeon and the doctor, and all of a sudden it was like a flow of people, and I was like, okay, I just missed my hasr, fine. I heard the adhan go off on my phone. And I was like, no worries, I'll pray that with my maghrib, inshallah. But I was busy, like I was at work, and it's a veterinary clinic, animals come in, you're in the middle of surgery. It's not like, oh, excuse me, I'm just going to walk away and pray now. I will strongly assume here, and I think you can agree with me, that Allah will forgive it if you pray that afterwards. And then maghrib came, and it was still busy. So many animals. It was like really like a rush hour at the veterinary clinic, and I couldn't go. Like I was very much needed still. So I was like, okay, no worries. Then Isha came and went. I was home again around 8:39, and I was already tired by then because it had been a really busy day. I hadn't had anything to eat yet, and like there's that buzz and exhaustion of like when there's a lot of animals that come in, some are infectious, some are doing surgery. You got to it's a whole thing. Okay. And there was a part of me that was like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to go to sleep. But again, that taqwa said, Zahra, pray. Because it's displeasing to Allah. Even though you're tired and you've had a busy day and it wasn't, because you meant to skip the prayers or anything, but you can still pray them now before you go to sleep. And I did. Alhamdulillah, I still did. And I felt so much better for it. Not just because, of the taqwa bit, but because praying makes me feel calm. It makes me feel happy and at ease and at rest. It's that moment in my day that is truly just for me and Allah. It's not even for Allah, it's for me. I'm doing it. It's a gift from Allah, and I appreciate that from him, right? So that is like the way that taqwa is a motivation. And this is why, again, it's so important not to add fear into it. The way, like fear mongering into taqwa, because that does the opposite. Fear doesn't motivate. Fear motivates us to run away. So that is what I wanted to share with you today around taqwa, having that God consciousness. And I'm hoping that by sharing this episode, inshallah, it makes you look at the ways that you are serving Allah, your practices of worship outside of your salah, outside of when you come into Ramadan, fasting, outside of your dhikr and dua. What else are you doing throughout the day that are acts of that worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And not again from a place of fear, but from a place of wanting to please Allah, because Allah is pleasing to you, right? And again, as we're coming into Ramadan, it's very important, not very, well, it is, but I was actually going to say something else, and then my mouth started saying something different. But it is, I lost my train of thought there. I'm so sorry. Why do I keep doing this? Yes, as we're coming into Ramadan, it is very easy for us all to sort of like have that taqwa naturally, because again, the energy around us and everybody's doing the same thing at the same time, and people are, quote unquote, taking their religion more seriously and all these things. So the elevation of taqwa is naturally felt more around Ramadan. But what I want you to do is already work on it now. Number one, because let's hit the ground running, so that when you come into Ramadan, you're already doing it. That's the first thing. You're probably already doing it now, but elevate it already from now on. And second of all, so that you remember that it is not reserved only for Ramadan. It is also for outside of Ramadan. It is for your whole entire life. And it is easy once you've got when you've got hit the ground running, it's easier to keep it running, right? So after Ramadan, inshallah, don't let go of it. And when you know what it is specifically, and in this case, it is taqwa, then it is easy for us to create awareness around it and then start acting according to that awareness, inshallah. Okay, my darling, if you're listening to this, I've got one little announcement here at the end, if you're not already checked out. If you're listening to this as this episode comes out, or within this next week as the episode has come out, this episode comes out, I actually don't even know what date it is, the 17th of February. I will host on the, I'm looking at everywhere, sorry, on the Wednesday, the 26th of February. So inshallah, 2 days before Ramadan, I will host my course, Seeking Allah. And this is the course or the event that I also had in Copenhagen when I was in Copenhagen after I completed my Umrah. And I did it live in person, and it was really lovely. 4 beautiful women showed up, and we had a beautiful evening together. And I got some beautiful feedback from doing that event from those ladies. So now I'm taking it online. And the reason why I'm doing it right before Ramadan is because I want to help create that relationship so that you can go into Ramadan seeking Allah, creating more of a deeper connection and intimate relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you would like, this is all going to be online. If you would like to participate in that event, then there will be a link in the show notes. Go click that link. That'll take you to the sales page where you can reserve your ticket. And then inshallah, I will see you on the 26th. Let me look at the date again. Wednesday, the 26th. And then we can have a whole conversation about creating a deep, meaningful, private, intimate, wonderful, loving relationship with Allah, which also, of course, in turn will make your taqwa that much stronger. All right, my darling, thank you so much for joining me for another episode today. I absolutely love you and adore you. Thank you so much for your support for this podcast. I will see you, inshallah, on Thursday's episode. But until then, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love.